channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun Reviews, back to talk more Doctor Who Season 9. We're on Episode 4. It is called Before the Flood. It is the second part, which I now found out that almost every episode this season is a two-parter. So that will definitely affect things from now on. So next time, I'm going to be doing the next two episodes in a row, just so that I can tell a full story, because I was kind of disappointed in my last review, not knowing ahead of time that it was a two-parter again. So, going forward, that's how we're going to proceed. This one, like I said, I needed this to be one full story because I just didn't have all the info, and I hate that. But this is pretty awesome because this deals with the bootstrap paradox, which is basically, what if an object or information, goes back in time and is basically stuck in a time loop where it becomes like the point of origin is kind of never known, and it kind of self-created or like almost the idea just came out of nothing. And that's what he talks about here, being like, who composed Beethoven's Fifth? Like, you go back in time and nobody knows who Beethoven is, but you do. And it's like, and he says, he prefaces this never happened, but he's giving an example. Okay, so like, if nobody ever heard of Beethoven, but I have, then who composed Beethoven's Fifth? It's pretty interesting. It's pretty much the crux of this whole thing. Because I kept going, how the hell is any of this going to make any sense by the end of it? Because if the doctor's dead, then who saves anybody? It's unfortunate that when they changed, the events, they couldn't save some of the people that were in this episode. But this, like, seeing this now, the second part, the whole thing comes together. So damn it, just release these as a movie. Like, why did they break these up? But you know what? Other shows do it all the time. But because I'm a new file to the TARDIS world, I didn't know ahead of time. So on me. Next time, Rob, do your research. I usually do. But this was an excellent episode. The Fisher King is an interesting character. He was voiced by Peter Serafinowicz. If you don't know who he is, he played the Tick recently on the Amazon Prime series. He was also in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's been on Parks and Recreation. He's been all over the place. He's a pretty good actor. And in this case, they just used his voice work to play the Fisher King. Now, they go back to 1980 Russia, or not? Is it Russia? No, it can't be. It's in Scotland. But for some reason, it's the wow. Okay, maybe not. Like, why is there other Russian propaganda all over the place? Now I'm like going. They went to the place in the. I might have to like re-look at this. Either way, okay. So. So the Doctor and O'Donnell and Bennett are all in the past. I love this part where she, we find out that she was intelligence. And so she knew all about the Doctor, and she has her nerding out moment of, it's bigger on the inside. I thought that was great. It's just that it's sad that she dies. Like, she gets her Yahoo moment, and then she doesn't get to come back. And that, I don't know. It just felt a little like a letdown that you let a character like have that moment and then die. Also, I was right. The words. Okay, I figured that they kept showing the words on the eyeballs that had to mean something, and it does. Everybody that's seen the actual message is at risk. The only one who didn't was the guy who translates for Kaz on the ship, which plays a big part in this. And the deaf part did have a moment too. I kept going, why doesn't she feel the vibrations of the guy that's trying to kill her behind her? And then she pulls a daredevil, puts her hands on the ground, and feels the vibrations. Now, I think she was feeling them a little bit earlier, and I don't know, I think they needed to show the audience, like that she wasn't actually pulling a daredevil. They just had to visually show people what she was doing. Kind of like when you feel the train tracks and you can feel a train coming. So I thought that was pretty interesting, even if it was just a brief moment. And I mean, I guess I should have known that. I mean, the doctor couldn't be dead. The whole thing with it being a hologram, again, like when did he get the idea to do that? When we never see him do any of this, but it all just happens. It's I'm not gonna say it's maddening, but I mean, like Clara says at the end, wow. She's like, yeah, that's pretty smart, but even the doctor's kind of impressed, I think. Um, Prentice and his race being the most invaded planet in the universe or whatever, that's pretty funny. They almost seem addicted to being invaded. Like at this point, that they're just like, oh, we need an invader. We need somebody to take control of our miserable lives, which is pretty funny. Also, that this whole thing started because, as usual, somebody's coming to invade Earth. But this guy's kind of like a, or what would you say, like the guy that they send in, like a, I had an idea for this myself, a pre-sent warrior ahead to send a signal to the rest of the armada to come and attack and invade and take the oceans. I want to know more about this race because it's actually pretty interesting. Like they want to drain the oceans and they seem to be like water based or want to control water, but we don't get that far. And I mean, I knew pretty quickly that the doctor was going to end up in that hearse, but it was pretty dope how it all comes about. And while this is going to be a pretty quick review because I'm just kind of reviewing it, I'm not going to break it all down because I didn't make notes. But I thought that this was all pretty good, and it addresses some of the issues a little bit more with Clara. Like it's clear when she's talking to the doctor about you can't die, like I just found a new lease on life, and you can't die on me, like you could have come back. So she's clearly, talking about Danny and this, series of events and her newfound, like, yay, I'm with the doctor and we're doing these ventures is, proven that she's just filling in these adventures for her loss. And as usual, Belinda, my one of my subscribers who's a member of the Scraping Firehawks, and she's a part of a lot of fandoms. She was there to tell me that that was basically it. And so thank you, Belinda, as always, for helping fill in the gaps for me when I don't always know what's going on. But still, it makes you wonder, like, the list that he comes up with and all the things that are happening, like, are all just part of the screwdriver, the new sunglasses. That's another thing that's hard to get used to. Is I can get used to somebody wearing sunglasses, but explaining to me that since he's always had that, I never took it into account. Also liked the change of the intro where there was a little bit of the electric guitar playing during the intro. This doctor seems to be a lot more rock and roll, and I love that. And especially now, he wasn't always like this in the earlier episodes that I watched. Maybe he was, but he just never busted out the guitar before. So that was before the flood. It was really good. I mean, it also made me think of like stuff like Futurama would do stuff like this where you can't go back in time, you can't face it. And even Back to the Future 2 dealt with this where you can't like run into yourself and you can't like change things. But the thing was is like you could, but he doesn't actually do it. He just but it still happens. Almost like the idea is so strong it somehow it just you know uh, just starts to exist on its own. It's crazy. So that was before the flood, and I realize that this might be a quick review, but I've been kind of burning the candle at both ends because The Witcher came out, and I'm still trying to get back to The Expanse before like before that gets too far along because it's been now a week since that started. So I need to get back to that, and I wanted to make sure I got a Doctor Who review out to keep to my schedule, and that for the few people that do watch these, thank you. Um, I just didn't want to not put one out today. So I'm not doing as deep a dive as I usually do. Um, but that's, I think that that's okay every once in a while. So I don't want anybody to think that I'm not still trying to get the Doctor videos out. So I got to get the Expanse videos out, and I've got to start cranking out the new stuff for next week. So like I said, lots of stuff always going on the channel. So if you did like this little review, please hit the like button. Sometimes, straight and to the point is good. But I mean, I do highly recommend that if you do watch these, watch both episodes at the same time so you don't run into this kind of situation, because I have a feeling I could have made like a 45-minute video off of just these 2 episodes alone. Like I said, if you like this, please hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber already, please become a subscriber. If you want to make sure you know where all the stuff... I mean, how many times does every YouTuber have to say this? Hit the bell for all notifications. Share my videos. You can find me on Twitter at reviews_gun. Oh, it's maddening. Otherwise, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews. We will be back next week with the next two-parter. I'm excited for this because Maisie Williams is in it. One of my favorite actresses of Game of Thrones. Yeah, she's my favorite actress from Game of Thrones. So, anyway, this is Rob at Smirking Gun Reviews saying have a great day, and we'll be back with more Doctor Who next week. A full deep dive next time. See ya.